All right, I think we're ready to get going. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Mitch Bishop. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for .NET Nuke. And this morning we have a very exciting web seminar. We're very pleased to have Melissa Webster from IDC join us. And it should be an interesting conversation about the new requirements for web content management. Things are definitely in a very dynamic phase right now in our market, and Melissa follows this stuff carefully. Super excited to have her join. Before we do that, however, just want to do some housekeeping and make sure that everybody can hear us. So if you can hear us, please use the panel on the right to raise your hand and let us know that you can hear us. There should be a little hand pointing up. Yes. So thank you for clicking on that. Also, can you, if people could let us know if they can see our screen. So if you can see our screen, just click on that little hand again. That would be great. Super. Thank you. Just a reminder that everybody on the call here, we've got a few hundred people on actually, so I'm very pleased with the attendance. Everybody is muted, but you can ask questions at any time through the questions panel. So feel free to log your questions. We're going to have plenty of time at the end to answer as many questions as we can get to. And I want to let everybody know that we will answer questions offline that we don't get to today. So rest assured we will answer your questions offline. Also, the slides for today will be available from the .NET Nuke website after we're done. So, I know we always get questions about that. Before we get to Melissa, I wanted to give a brief introduction on .NET Nuke, just a few slides. Most of you are familiar with .NET Nuke, but some of you may not be. We are a web content management software company. Our customers use our products to build and deploy commercial-grade websites of all kinds. We have an open source model. In fact, we're the largest, most successful open source project that Microsoft has ever had. We are, as a result of that, the #1 web content management solution in the Microsoft ecosystem. A few years ago, we started a commercial business, and we now have over 1,800 commercial customers, which has resulted in us growing very quickly as a commercial entity as well. In fact, last year we made the Inc. 500 list. We're very proud of that achievement. We were the 23rd fastest growing software company in the whole list, and the 9th fastest in the San Francisco Bay Area. Other highlights, because of our open source model, there have been hundreds of thousands of websites built on our product. We have an online store called the .NET Nuke Store, which has thousands of commercial extensions and apps and designs that make it super fast and easy for you to build and deploy commercial-grade websites. If it isn't in our product, you'll likely find it in the store. And of course, due to our open source model, we've got a gigantic community, about 1 million members. There's been millions and millions of downloads of our product. So whether you're using our free community edition or one of our commercial editions, rest assured there's going to be community members out there that you can turn to when you have questions. We, as I mentioned, have a content management system, but our content management system is really kind of the hub of your most important business asset, which is your online presence. And our CMS over the years has, we've been adding capabilities and modules to the core of what we're doing so that you have a fairly complete built-in solution, whether you need to manage more than one content owner through workflow and granular permissions, or you need to manage your documents with a robust document management capability. Our product is very robust in all these areas. Last year we came out with significant mobile capabilities. Our product is cloud ready. You can host it anywhere, and you can have a very flexible cloud storage capability as well. If for some reason you don't find something that you need, building a custom extension is very easy. It's an extensible platform, and at the end of the day, you'll find a lot of those extensions already built in our online store, as I mentioned. We have a ton of amazing customers. A lot of them are listed on our website. They have a lot of really great stories about how they've used .NET Nuke to get to market a lot faster, to become a lot more efficient internally, to really kind of build a better relationship between IT and the business around dynamic content presentation, whether it's videos, whether it's text, whether it's e-commerce or social media or whatever. We don't have time to get into a lot of these stories today, but I will let you know that there are a bunch of stories now posted on our website. And just to finish up, .NET Nuke does come in 3 editions. There's our free community edition, which is a very robust solution for many companies. If you want a fully supported commercial product, our professional edition is what a lot of our customers choose. And there's additional capabilities in our professional edition around granular permissions, workflow, mobile, and so on. And then at the high end of our product line is our enterprise package, which is really meant for larger companies that have multiple servers and multiple deployment scenarios. So with that, I'd like to introduce Melissa Webster. We're very excited to have Melissa on board today. Melissa has a long background in the software industry at large companies and small companies, Fortune 500 companies, internet companies, startups, and she's been at IDC covering the content management space for a while. And she's really got her finger on the pulse of where things are going, and that's really the main point of today's web seminar. So with that, I will turn it over to Melissa.
Well, thank you, Mitch, and hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. So I'll be speaking about, as Mitch said, the new requirements for web content management in our age of digital marketing today. And by way of a little background, I thought I'd give you a quick précis of who is IDC. We're a global high-tech market research firm. We've got analysts around the world in more than 43 countries. We were founded in 1964, so we've been covering the tech markets for more than 4 decades. We're a subsidiary, actually, of IDG, which is a multi-billion-dollar global publishing and media company, and it's the company behind publications like Computer World and Macworld, PC World, CIO Magazine, and others, and also events such as Internet World and Network World. IDC, our research company that I'm part of, performs primary research through surveys and customer interviews, vendor briefings, and so forth, and we publish market forecasts and predictions on hundreds of markets to help buyers, vendors, and the financial community formulate their IT strategies and make investment decisions. I'm part of the software research team, and as Mitch says, I cover content management, authoring, and publishing software. So our premise for this talk is really that web content management is no longer just about putting up a simple static information site about your company. It's about creating customer engagement. And increasingly, web content management is really the core, as Mitch pointed out, of a much broader set of integrated technologies. And you can think of this in a way as kind of the new stack, the new technology stack for digital marketers. Digital marketing gives marketers unprecedented opportunities to connect with customers and create much deeper relationships with them, reaching them through the multiple channels online, including web, mobile, and social, fostering communities, and creating a dynamic and truly personalized experience. So my agenda today is to talk to you a little bit briefly about the big technology trends that are really shaping what IDC refers to as the third platform, then dive in a little more on mobile and social trends as background to our 4th section, which is the implications for web content management and IDC's guidance to you as buyers. We see really 4 big technology forces of change today. It's kind of like a perfect storm. Cloud, mobile, social, and big data and analytics that combined make for a tremendously powerful new platform for building online applications and connecting with users. And as we'll see combined, these offer really completely new possibilities for digital marketers and everyone who wants to deliver a compelling customer experience and bring customers closer or create stronger ties with partners and suppliers or even employees at work and our fellow citizens. Web content management has always been about providing an application in the cloud, and of course, increasingly it's also the hub of integration for other cloud services, whether that's e-commerce or other applications that add customer service. But it's also about mobile, including mobile websites and mobile apps, and it's about social, building communities online, publishing to social sites, enabling social networks and social sharing at work and so forth. And then finally, big data and analytics, that's an emerging technology space today. We see this in social data mining as one use case. And analytics are going to become increasingly pervasive as an enabler of those personalized digital experiences that we want to deliver over the coming years, especially where marketers need to reach a mass market. So let's talk a little more about, yes, go ahead.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Can you do me a favor and speak up a little bit?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, just I think the volume's going up and down, and if you could just speak up, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. No, thank you for telling me. As I mentioned, those four big technology trends taken together are engendering what IDC would call the third platform. And hallmarks of the third platform are what some have called the Internet of Things, of devices and small sensors, of trillions of connected processors of different types. It's characterized by smart systems and billions of users and millions of apps. And it's an order of magnitude bigger in size and scale and complexity compared to where we are today in what some have called the post-PC era, though it's important to note that PC is going to be with us for a long time to come, and there's more on that in a few slides. By 2020, when global IT and telecom spend reaches about $5 trillion, which is about almost $2 trillion more than today, at least 80% of the growth there will be driven by third platform technologies and the explosion of new solutions that are built on the third platform. Some statistics to bring the magnitude of these changes home. First, cloud and the growth of the Internet users around the world. We've seen just huge growth in the number of people connected to the Internet over the last decade, and our estimate is 2.2 billion worldwide by the end of 2011, just under a third of the planet's population today. We're still seeing tremendous growth in emerging markets. The penetration in the U.S. is about 86%, but in India, it's still single digits. As the audience has moved online, so have ad dollars. Online advertising revenue was $87 billion last year. That's been growing at about 20% a year. Looking at mobile, on the mobile site front, we've seen a huge explosion in devices, different operating systems, different feature sets, different form factors and screen resolutions, and devices that are really used for different purposes. The growth of mobile has really given rise to a whole new market of mobile apps. There's 500,000 in the App Store at Apple alone, not to mention all the Android app stores, and all sorts of new consumer services like personal clouds for personal storage. These mobile devices open the door to an entirely new type of application experience, namely location-based services. With a swipe or a click, we can find parking within a few blocks of where we are right now, or find a restaurant nearby and check its reviews. We can upload and share our photos and our videos. And we've seen the use of mobile devices, for example, for journalists, using iPhones a few years ago to report from disaster scenes where camera crews weren't able to get in, for example, after the earthquake in Haiti. This chart shows what IDC believes the proliferation of devices is going to look like in terms of shipments. More than 1 billion new smartphones will ship in 2015 worldwide, and all of them are capable of running apps, in addition to viewing websites via a browser. We're going to continue to see diversity of the operating systems on smartphones. We don't see any winner-take-all scenario coming in the near future, which means that developers who are building mobile apps are going to need to support diverse platforms for a long time to come. And actually, the platforms are going to get more diverse, not less, as Windows 7 begins to make more inroads. Tablet shipments are also going to continue to grow quickly, and we're predicting an annual rate of 180 million units per year by 2015. Of course, the install base for tablets is a lot bigger than that. This is just the annual new units forecast. And here, too, the market will be split by operating system, though it's not quite as fragmented as is the case in the smartphone marketplace. This proliferation of devices really revolves around individuals and their specific needs. And just to burst one of the myths out there, that there's one magical device that's going to replace them all or replace several of them. You know, we've heard this claim that maybe tablets will replace laptops. The fact is, according to our research, most tablet owners also own PCs, smartphones, laptops, and desktop computers today. And most of us, you know, carry around at least one device today. Many of us carrying around more than one. This slide is drawn from our consumer PC survey from last fall. And as you can see here, the usage patterns are actually pretty different from device to device. So despite the love affair with tablets today, less than half of tablet owners actually use their tablets on a daily basis. It's a pretty surprising finding until you stop and think about the fact that every tablet owner also owns a phone and a PC. And one last comment here, bring your own device is getting to be a pretty common scenario in a lot of companies. It used to be easier to say no to bring your own device before executives started asking to connect their iPads to the corporate network. And so the cat's out of the bag on that now, and it's one of the areas where consumerization of IT is well along and will continue. Let's look at a little bit of the social trends today. Here's some recent statistics just to underscore the phenomenal growth of the consumer web. Facebook has 800 active users today, 800 million active users today. LinkedIn has 150 million registered users. Twitter claims 140 million active users and about 340 million tweets a day. And those are just a few of the commonly used social networks in North America. In China, you have a whole bunch more, like Renren and Qzone and Pengyu, Kaixin, Weibo, and so on, which is sort of the Twitter of China. In Europe, the biggest video sharing site isn't YouTube, it's Dailymotion. And in China, it's 56.com and Tudu. So you've got this tremendous embrace of social networks on the consumer side and a tremendous amount of user-generated content, this explosion of user-generated content that's been just phenomenal. And it speaks, I think, to a fundamental human desire to share and connect. Social networks, which are online communities, really tap into that desire, and they offer kind of a special kind of transparency and visibility to mere mortals. It's sort of part of the incentive to contribute. If you think where we've come with social, Web 1.0 basically just did hyperlinks, static websites. The transaction web is what we might refer to here as Web 1.5, which added dynamic pages and some e-commerce and saw the rise of bloggers. But even there, the emphasis was more on the owner or the controller of the information, the person publishing information, and much less on the feedback or the feedback to that content or integration between, say, the blogger and their readers. Today with social web, or Web 2.0, it's really about maximizing sort of collective intelligence and letting participants share and add their content and add value to the discussion. It's really much more about the value of community. And on that theme of community, when we build websites, after all, we're really trying to build communities, online communities of like-minded people who share ideas and debate or help each other solve problems. Or at work, it's about communities of practice. Social networking and social media are changing the way we connect and we collaborate. And in the consumer world, most of us turn to one site or another for reviews and recommendations before we buy something or book a vacation. At work, Enterprise Social helps us locate experts who can help us solve a problem, and it gives us a way to collaborate and share information in the context of a project. social is also a really powerful way to find content work. As our research has shown in the past, knowledge workers waste hours of every week searching for content they can't find and sometimes recreating that content because they couldn't find it. So the social graph at work and social media at work gives us another way to find relevant content. And as we become more social, it actually changes the very nature of business. IDC has been writing a lot about social business and how this creates real organic change in organizations. Of course, we've seen the democratizing effect of self-organizing groups of people for a while. Wikipedia is, of course, a very good example of the social effect in the consumer space, a real global effort. But another great example, I think, is the open source community. And .NET Nuke's community is a super example of this. Products that are elaborated and extended by essentially a global workforce of very passionate developers and users that span a huge number of different organizations with this intriguing crowdsourced, opportunity, innovation with a peer review process. It makes open source communities just incredibly powerful ecosystems. And at the end of the day, ecosystems really are the big engines of innovation in the tech world. Our survey research on social business shows why companies are adopting social software in the enterprise today. The top three here really speak to the value of enterprise social around forming communities of interest, letting us share tips and techniques and best practices, letting us collaborate, and helping us to identify experts and forge some new connections. We've all heard stories about a customer in, say, Texas who has a critical problem with a product, and then a product manager in California is able to network with an engineer in Kuala Lumpur who works with a developer in China, and they solve the customer's problem over the weekend before it turns into a disaster. It's really a story about bringing together people who would otherwise never be able to find each other in real time or near time to accomplish a task. This is such an important area for web content management today. We think communities are critical, and web content management solutions really need to provide integrated features for building communities and moderating them and sharing content. And there's also the connection to intranets and extranets, publishing to portals, document management. After all, the whole point of creating the online experience for customers and partners and employees is about engagement. And communities are an essential part of creating engagement. A great example of the third platform elements and how they reinforce each other, so the 1 and 1 is 3 equation, is the intersection of social and mobile. And if you just think for a minute about the new kinds of experiences that we can create when we combine them, as background, our research shows 60% of mobile, well, actually not our research, but the Kleiner Perkins research shows that 60% of mobile activity isn't about email or making phone calls. It's really retrieving maps for wayfinding and finding the nearest restaurant, playing games, social networking on Facebook and Twitter, and sort of utility apps that help you do things like track expenses or manage your calendar or upload photos. And it's also about accessing the web. One really intriguing area where social meets mobile is we've been hearing about location-based services. And what's coming down the pike are new services that actually start to factor in what you're doing right now. They leverage data coming from the accelerometer on your device and other sensors and figure out how fast you're traveling and infer whether you're walking, and so maybe you can receive a push notification or an advertisement, or whether you're in the car stuck in traffic, or if you're stationary, or if you put your phone down. If you combine all that with location and where you live and whether you're away from home and what time of day it is, where you are right now, advertisers can start to make some pretty good guesses about what you're doing and figure out how to offer something to you that's relevant. All this to say, it's still very early days. There's a lot of new potential that is still to be uncovered. And so, let's see, what happened? Sorry about that. Yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the implications for how social and mobile and the third platform impact where we go with web content management. I'd like to start with a little survey data that from a survey we ran last fall. It's a survey we've run, by the way, over the past 5 years and asks a variety of questions about needs and priorities for web content management. We asked our respondents what their budgets look like for investments in their public-facing websites. And as you can see on this chart, web content management is an area where budgets look very healthy. This is year-over-year growth. Only 5% of our respondents told us their budgets were declining. And by the way, we saw the same thing during the depths of the recession. To us, this reflects very much what we're seeing in terms of the big shift in marketing budgets online. And that's a trend we expect to continue to see for the next several years. That said, diverse companies have different goals and different budgets. The web content management needs of a global branded consumer goods manufacturer that's operating in 80 countries around the world are certainly very different from those of a medium-sized nonprofit or government agency or a retailer that's focused on serving a smaller community. And so the budget's very different, and it's important, we think, to match your needs and budget to appropriate solutions. As Mitch noted earlier, web content management is still very much a partnership between business and IT. Our survey results show this too. Typically, marketing, corporate communications, and IT are driving the site, but it's worth pointing out there are a lot of other groups that may be involved, so it's important to connect with all of your stakeholders and incorporate their needs. The basics need to be there in the platform. I think that's a given. When we asked users from both line of business and IT what their key criteria were, as you can see from this chart, ease of use for non-technical users, that's the content contributors, ranks right at the top of the list. We continue to hear from users they need to be able to publish without IT's help. And on the IT side, features like quick time to deployment, ease of management still rank very highly. And of course, users care a lot about cost of ownership, scalability, and the other features that make it possible to build a really engaging web experience. At the same time, our survey data shows the increasing adoption of mobile and social. Note the big jump here in expectations around publishing mobile and social content, including user-generated content. And also, as you can see on this chart, generally speaking, websites are continuing to get richer and higher gloss. On the mobile side, there's mobile web, and then mobile apps. We hear companies want to be able to publish to both. And on the social side, note that 40% want to be able to syndicate web content to social networks. So again, our research statistics are showing this great growth and interest and demand for solutions for both mobile and social. And on the social topic again, your web content management system really needs to provide explicit capabilities for social media and communities, whether you're publishing to an externally facing website or an extranet or an intranet. You want your community to interact and share. And it's, after all, lively community is what creates demand for your new products and services and inspires people to donate to a good cause, connects people to solve problems, and it helps unload your service and support people because the community can often respond even more quickly to other users' problems than you can. Your web content management system should provide capabilities for user-generated content or social media, such as commenting, rating and ranking and replies, and moderation, good moderation capabilities so that you can keep the community strong and healthy and allow users to participate in threaded discussions. You also need built-in capabilities to connect to external social networks with things like the like button for website articles. And if you're a branded manufacturer, you need a way to publish content to your fan page on Facebook and publish content to social widgets that users might place on their walls. It might just be harder to find the folks responsible for your social media strategy than it is to find the folks who have a stake in your website or your websites. It's IT is often the clearinghouse for the website, but on the social side, duties can be pretty fragmented, so you may want to proactively engage with these other groups to see who your social stakeholders are. And finally, let's talk a little bit about platform and integration capabilities. Mitch highlighted the importance of web content management as an integration hub, if you will, a part of the total platform. It's the extensibility of the platform that makes it so valuable. So think about web content management as a platform for digital marketing. It has to be open and extensible. You need to be able to integrate other tools and web services into this digital marketing stack. It may be that you want a multi-vendor solution. You want to be able to plug and play with other best-of-breed technologies. So, ideally, you look for a partner that is open and extensible and that has is able to build an ecosystem that's going to attract others and other innovators, other technology developers. Look at what the web content management solution provides in the way of support for developers. You want to make sure you can take advantage of third-party widgets. As Mitch said, the .NET Nuke Store provides that capability today, right out of the box. You need to be able to integrate with enterprise apps, such as your CRM system, ERP, commerce, portal integration, very important for publishing content to your intranet and extranet, and then advanced capabilities around targeting and personalization, analytics, and so on, that may be important to you as well. We asked survey participants last fall what their plans were for related technologies. And as you can see on this list, the needs are all over the map. Better site search, web analytics, mobile app dev tools, e-commerce, online video platforms, and tools for digital marketing, such as personalization and targeting and recommendation engines and test tools and so forth. So this is a laundry list. Your laundry list may look a little different. But that's, again, highlighting the value of a platform that will let you integrate whatever you need. And one last comment about developer ecosystems. There are several. Your skill sets will dictate which ecosystem you want to participate in. Just interestingly enough, the biggest ecosystem after sort of web scripting tools, which is, of course, a very large ecosystem of users, you're going to use those too, is the .NET ecosystem. And this is research from our application developer survey from late last year. In summary, think about the core capabilities for users in IT that make the site scalable, robust, and easy to use, easy to deploy. Mobile and social capabilities, especially community building features, are critical. Look for integration, extensibility, and a platform that's developer friendly. And remember that it's the ecosystem that drives so much of today's innovation. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mitch and questions.
Thanks very much, Melissa. That was really interesting. I've got a bunch of questions myself, and we have some coming in from the audience as well. But maybe we can start things off with a little bit of a conversation. One of the things that I've noticed, in sort of putting together some of the information you've got in this slide, it seems to match something that we're seeing. We talk to a lot of customers. We're obviously in this space every day. And one of the things that we worry about and think about a lot, obviously, is what does the next generation web content management system really look like? And what we're noticing is that the distinct lines between document management, I guess called ECM now, WCMS, and social collaboration, each of these silos have had sort of high-end enterprise, best-of-breed, if you will, solutions. But we see that the lines between these silos are getting pretty fuzzy, and that our prediction is that the next generation CMS is going to merge these three things together. And obviously, your discussion on mobile is applicable here as well. But what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, Mitch, I think that's such an interesting question, and I agree with you that there is this blurring of lines. It used to be that web content management was all about externally facing websites, and then we used portals for intranets and extranets. And then our document management system had its own user interface, and so we went off there when we needed to find documents. And what we've begun to see is this two things, I think, really. One is, web content management has always been a much better way to author and publish and express content. It's given us all the rich ways of templating and pushing content to users that portals often lack. So we saw the harbinger of this as there was market demand for much better integration between web content management software and portal software. And actually that's been a real pain point, don't you think? I think the often users try to do the integration themselves, and if the software they're buying doesn't have out of the box integration between web content management and portal, it's painful.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing is that at the sharp end of the pyramid, for the very largest of companies, they don't mind investing in best of breed and then customizing the integrations between those products, because in their minds, customization equals competitive advantage. But I think a lot of organizations can't afford that strategy. They can't afford, to spend the money to integrate stuff, build a lot of custom code that needs to then be maintained and updated over the years. And so I think, from my perspective, I think the market's moving towards we need good capabilities in each of these silos, but pre-integrated and delivered in a way that has a nice try before you buy experience. And on the business side, you pointed it out, this stuff has to be super simple to use for content owners and business people.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I love your remarks about the need to. It's only the very high end of the market, the sharp point of the pyramid, that's able to afford those integrations and high customizations. There's a friend of mine used to say, today's applications are tomorrow's legacy, right? So
yeah.
It is very challenging. Also, those integrations really cost you in terms of time to market, and they tie your resources up on something that's arguably really not very strategic. So it's not always. It's hard to say that doing that integration yourself is really giving you much competitive differentiation if you could buy those capabilities out of the box. But the other thing, Mitch, wouldn't you agree that our newer technologies and newer mashup capabilities and sort of so the widgets and so forth are making it easier to solve that problem today? Combinations of what vendors are doing, and also new ways of thinking about what is the integration process itself.
Well, it's interesting. You threw up a couple of slides at the end there about the developer ecosystem, and we've been obviously monitoring that as well. And we think that the developers' ecosystems are, first of all, you're never going to sort of win the religious wars, if you will, between what I call alpha developers who want to develop everything custom, and then developers that use frameworks. So first of all, there's that kind of distinction, that there's a lot of developers that use frameworks, and there's developers that build everything custom. But when you're in the framework world, even then, I think that there are some very interesting trends that are happening right now. The two that we're watching closely are a trend towards a services layer kind of an approach, and the second is more to client-side development with technologies like jQuery and Web API from Microsoft, CSS3, HTML5, and the pendulum, it seems to swing back and forth, but the pendulum's definitely swinging towards more client-side development, and all those capabilities we support in our framework today, but we're definitely looking at that trend as the future, and I don't know if you're seeing that as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's actually an area where you're really well prepared to help users, because you can help them adopt the languages that are really growing. the technologies that are really growing in use. And I think that gives developers who are deploying .NET Nuke really, kind of an edge in their career path.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm an old developer myself, so you always want to work on the latest technologies and learn and develop cool stuff. And that's what we're seeing with the client-side development, is that you can definitely develop some cool stuff. The services layer API stuff is also necessary and speeds up that integration problem that I talked about earlier.
Yeah, I agree. And then one other angle to your theme about those technologies of portal, document management, and web content management, publishing, web publishing capabilities all coming together is folks don't really want to use those multiple interfaces anymore. They really want to be able to access information from any user interface. So, there's that need to surface documents for your website. There's the need to surface, documents in your portal. But, publish a, really up-level that experience that you're providing to employees beyond what, the typical portal has done, and especially, I think that's driven not just by the consumer web, but also the need to improve the engagement that you have with your partners and your customers and your suppliers.
Yeah, I agree. I think, so just changing the subject a little bit, I mean, I thought your slides on the social stuff was pretty interesting. Obviously, the latest statistics on Facebook users and LinkedIn and all that, I mean, it's crazy stuff. I think that what's really interesting, though, is how do B2B companies take advantage of this stuff, and what is the ROI of investing in communities and investing in social collaboration? Does IDC have any research in this area?
Certainly we do. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but what we hear when we talk to customers are stories like, for example, on the service side, a company that builds an online community that's part of its website where users might authenticate or maybe not, but they join the communities that are sponsored by that customer, by that, whether it's a brand or it's a retailer or e-tailer, or whether it's any kind of financial services site, whatever. Getting that user community going pays dividends in several ways. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, I think the users can support each other and sometimes answer each other's questions more quickly than you'll be able to respond to individual user questions. And so that sort of, it's kind of like a crowdsourced knowledge base, if you will. And the beauty of it is kind of the questions are asked in the way that users think about the topic, the way they envision the problem. And so users help each other sort of in their own language. And it demonstrates to the other customers and prospects just how vibrant, how passionate other users are about your products or your services. So there's this, sort of miraculous effect there, I think. The other thing is, if users are unhappy, and we've seen this, that's one of the reasons for social mining tools, if you will, social monitoring tools. If users are unhappy and you don't give them a community to participate in, they sort of don't have an outlet. They don't have a way to vent. They don't have a dialogue with you. And so they'll vent somewhere else, in the blogosphere and the Twittersphere. And then sometimes those negative comments go pretty viral. So if you don't provide a way for them to connect with you and share concerns that they have or unhappiness, you don't have really a way to sort of participate in that conversation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's really a risk there.
I agree, and I think that what's been interesting to watch is the migration of SharePoint as a document management system to the positioning of SharePoint as a social collaboration solution for internal use. Right? I think there's a lot of interesting ROI stats that are starting to emerge, but at the very least, we can agree that we're in the very early stages of B2B ROI measurement and analytics around internal social collaboration, as well as direct benefit of communities to B2B companies. We have a large community. We have a 1 million person community that is clearly benefited us as we moved into the commercial marketplace. Now, that community started initially as an open source community, but now it's bridging to both open source and commercial edition communities. So for us, I can tell you we have, direct evidence that communities do help solve problems faster, leads to better customer satisfaction, and there certainly leads to better communication between us and our customers.
Yeah, in fact, I know that there are tech vendors that are using blogs and wikis and other things to help to almost write their user documentation sometimes. That it's this notion of the crowd completing, how do I do things with the product, use cases. And also for you, I'm sure this is a huge inspiration in terms of what customers want in the next release. Right? It must give you the finger on the pulse.
Absolutely.
Right, in a great way.
And the way the platforms are getting now, it's certainly easy to reach out and consolidate the analytics around that data. We're actually getting a related question here from the audience. Bobby's asking, what would your input be on a business that sells only B2B but is moving into the social media world? Isn't it the main purpose of social media to raise awareness of products and make it easy for the consumer to buy? And my reaction to that, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. My reaction to that is I think that certainly one purpose of social media is to raise awareness, but I think that the main purpose for me of social media, particularly outwards and bound, community-facing, is to build a channel for engagement and credibility for your company with prospects and customers. And if you view it that way, I think yes, of course, you can raise awareness for your products, but I think if you approach social communities as the way primarily to market, I don't know that it'll be as successful as if you approach them more as an engagement tool. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think so let me answer it a little indirectly. If you're a mass market sort of consumer-facing company, then you're probably thinking the more Twitter followers you have, the more Facebook friends you have on your fan page, the more successful your social media. Particularly if you're doing social mining and you're doing sentiment analysis and things are overwhelmingly positive, you should probably feel pretty good. If you're B2B, maybe the numbers are lower, but that doesn't mean that you're not reaching people who are passionate about what you do or could become passionate advocates. And it also, even though you may be reaching smaller numbers because you have more focused, a more focused and narrower, higher value customer base, then it doesn't matter that there are fewer people. It's the real question is, are you reaching the influencers?
Yeah.
So,
that's
the group you want to build in.
No, that's good. No, I agree. We're getting another question here about social. I thought we'd put it in here. Is there a single system that you know of that can publish content for the website as well as put it on social networks simultaneously? And I guess I'll start that answer by saying that one of the things we've been working hard on at .NET Nuke is our next release, which is coming out next month, is going to have significant social capabilities built into it, and much of it in our free community edition. But the idea here is that we're in the process of combining robust CMS capabilities with very interesting social tools that will allow you to very quickly build internal social collaboration sites as well as external community sites. That's a first step. That doesn't directly answer the question, but your CMS now is going to be directly linked to your social capabilities. So at least within your community or your social intranet, you'll be able to publish content and have it fully integrated and socialized with your social stuff. The next step, of course, is building in authentication to the popular sites out there like Twitter and Facebook and so on. And we're doing that for our own website, which is built on .NET Nuke. And then the next step after that would be a more complete integration between Facebook, because you always want to be monitoring Facebook and Twitter. I mean, it's not like you're going to replace that stuff. But as you pointed out, Melissa, earlier, you're going to have to stay on top of that stuff and monitor it pretty carefully to get a complete picture of the conversation that's going on about your company. Your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. Actually, when you think about tools for social, social and social marketing, it's really this. It's really actually kind of a pretty broad domain. It's a basket of very different technologies that you need, right? There's that B2C interaction, there's the B2B interaction, there's the business to employee interaction, and then there's some of it's social network and sort of connecting that to people in real time to accomplish a task or manage a project through with notifications. Other times it's really more about the content and knowledge management, and so it's pretty diverse. But just going back to something you just touched on a little while ago, inside the organization, we're starting to see companies, particularly HR departments, placing a lot more emphasis on, what are employees doing on our social networks? Who's sharing, who's not? How do we incent them to share more? And I think that most companies are beginning to be pretty convinced that there's such real value here. Part of it is it's identifying who the go-to people are, and I'm seeing more companies incenting employees not with sticks yet, but certainly with carrots to share and make that environment open and transparent.
It is an interesting topic to talk about social media policies, but I think that will be a rabbit hole we could go down and probably have a whole other conversation about. But I did want to touch on one other thing that you talked about, which was mobile, and I thought it was an interesting comment that you made that there's been this sort of tendency to, I liken it to kind of 6-year-old soccer, when you watch them all kind of cluster around the ball. So everybody's moving to tablets. Let's all move to tablets, right? And the smartphone is dead. And I think that you're right. I think every one of us owns multiple devices. And it's really about optimizing the customer experience for the device that you happen to be using at the time. And we also forget that in the rest of the world, the main way that they access the Internet in some countries, like Korea, for instance, or Japan, is through a mobile device. What we've done with our product is create a situation where you can have a mobile website that adapts to the device that you're using. So if it's a tablet, you can adapt the look and feel and the customer experience around navigation, for instance, to a tablet. But your experience on a smartphone with a smaller display area is going to be quite different, but again, optimized for that device. I mean, to me, I feel like this is just table stakes for a content management system, but I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I certainly agree, and that's not to say that everybody in this space does it well, right? But I agree, and there's too many devices, and even if you look at Android and you say, all right, well, how many versions of my website would I have to create to support all the different Android phones and their different form factors? It's a huge list. So, automatic device detection and the connection to templating in your web content management system so that you can flow content to whatever device you get and really create a beautiful experience that is going to play well. I think that's critical. And otherwise, users, we all know what it feels like when you have to kind of pinch too much and zoom too much and sort of, try to move the page around and try to interact with it. It's incredibly frustrating. And that's one of the things that's driven the market a little bit towards apps in some cases, but I don't think that's the right reason to use apps, right? I think apps are about something else. They're about more of a persistent connection with a user and more task-focused.
Yeah. Hey, we're getting a couple of questions here, which I think are really interesting, which are related to something. We just completed a fairly comprehensive survey of our customer base, and one of the questions we asked them is, well, what's the best thing that you like about .NET Nuke, and what are the capabilities that you use most often? And not surprisingly, our customers came back and said, well, we use it as a content management system, right? And we kind of forget the fact that at its core, a content management system is really there to solve a couple of basic problems. And the problems that it solves is that if you've got more than one content owner, and many organizations have multiple content owners, sometimes tens or even hundreds, it's very easy for those people to step on each other if you don't have a content management system. So what a content management system really does for you is it frees up the business from having to depend on IT to make changes to the site, and it frees up IT from that job as well. So in this sort of never-ending tension between IT and the business, this is definitely one thing that they can agree on, is that a content management system that is easy to use for the business really relieves a lot of that tension. The other thing that a content management system allows you to do is to organize your content in a way that makes sense for your business. And these days, you know, it used to be content was just text. Well, then it included documents. Now it's photos and videos and all sorts of stuff. And you've got to have a way of organizing that content in a cohesive way and really have that under the control of the business, facilitated by IT. So we are getting some basic questions about, you know, what's CMS all about, and those would be, you know, two main things I would point out. There's a lot of other things that CMSs are good at as well, but any thoughts on that, Melissa?
No, I think those are the two biggies, but I agree that's just where it starts. I will say that the ability of marketing folks to quickly not just deploy new content to the website without IT being involved, because it should be a publishing, you know, it really should be a publishing task, not a software development and deployment task, right? But the ability of marketing to quickly publish things like new launch sites, new, you know, microsites for an event or a new offer, that's really critical. And marketing people get very frustrated when they have to sort of get in a queue. So I think that's really essential. And then on the topic of, you know, really organizing our content, that's pretty critical if we're going to customize the experience for different devices and different users.
Yeah. I think we have time for final thoughts here. Any sort of final thoughts for everybody, Melissa?
Well, I think it's a multi-channel world. That's the first thing. Users coming in from mobile or social or on the web you actually sometimes have different goals. So when you think about developing your website, you want to kind of anticipate what their real desires are and give them the experience through those different channels that makes sense. At the same time, you need to sort of assemble that user profile that lets you understand that user through all the ways they interact with you. And you really need to reach out and create experiences for where they live when they're not coming to the website. That's why mobile and social is so important. Building communities, I can't say enough about how important that is.
No, I agree. And this release we're coming out with next month supports a user profile the way that you described that is applicable across multiple domains and social interactions as well. So, Melissa, I really appreciate you spending time with us this morning. I thought the conversation was really super interesting, and hopefully everybody else did as well. We did get a bunch more questions that we don't have time to answer, but we will reach out to you and answer those questions over email, and we can get engaged in a conversation. But Melissa, thank you so much, and I appreciate everybody's attendance this morning.
My great pleasure, Mitch. It's been a pleasure for me too.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.